you travel abroad, soon you won't need a COVID test to get back into the U.S. CDC is dropping the requirement for all incoming air travelers on Sunday. Puts an end to one of the last travel restrictions of the pandemic. NBC Bay Area Stephanie Maglione explains it's a move airlines have been pushing for, and many travelers.
Time has come. On Sunday, the CDC is dropping the COVID test requirement to get back into the U.S.
Like the UK in abandoning this COVID testing rule after months of pushback from airlines and the travel industry. In a statement, United Airlines thanked the administration and said this was an important step for both air travel and tourism jobs.
Since January of 2021, the U.S. has required anyone entering the country by air to have a negative COVID test. Starting Sunday, the Biden administration will drop that requirement, something the hard-hit travel industry has lobbied hard for. Last year, international travel to the U.S. was down a staggering 78%.
Hey everyone, and it's just so good to see you all. Again, I haven't been posting much. Essentially, one reason is that there hasn't been much of a travel update to update you guys on. The last update, however, was essentially something about India and some other countries' international traveling. Obviously, the US hasn't changed much with regards to the time it removed the ban, and also required all of the passengers who are traveling into the country to require COVID tests in about 24 hours. So today, being the June 12th, as of midnight, you no longer need any COVID negative test reports to show it to your flight carriers or anybody before boarding in if you're traveling to the US. This is, however, a great news. The last time there's something major happened, it was a really long time ago, and as of 2022, there was literally no travel update. The cases here are spiking, and there's so many things that are changing rapidly. But however, as of right now, you no longer need any sort of negative test, and CDC has attested to that. As long as you're traveling to the US, you don't need to show any sort of negative test. So obviously, if you're traveling to this country, you no longer need it. So who all are eligible for this sort of criteria? Pretty much anyone traveling into the US. US citizens, lawful permanent residents, essentially people on green card, and other exemption categories. I'll list down all these categories in the description, so you can go check it out and also read the main official news. However, if you are on a visa as an H-1B, F-1 student, or if you're like B-1, B-2 traveling into the country, you don't need a negative report. However, you are expected to show, your vaccination proof that you're fully vaccinated. That is essentially, I've gone over this definition over and over again, but I'm going to repeat it one more time. Fully vaccinated essentially means that you have gotten 2 doses of your shot. Essentially, the one that you get in the US is Pfizer, Moderna, which have 2 shots. J&J is 1 shot. Pretty much all the vaccines are 2 shots, including the ones that are available internationally. And even if you are traveling from international, any sort of country, just show your vaccination status and you should be good to travel. You don't really need any sort of negative proof. Let's assume that you aren't vaccinated. Now this becomes a tricky situation. You are expected to show a negative COVID test, but it's a tricky line. Do check with your airlines before traveling in. But the CDC doesn't essentially explicitly mention. It just mentioned that if you are a US citizen, and if you're a US citizen who is unvaccinated, I think you should pretty much be allowed to get in regardless. If you are unvaccinated international passenger who isn't, who doesn't have a valid visa with the US, you might really need to take a COVID test and get to the boarding stage. But however, it's getting really tricky. So if you haven't yet been convinced, definitely take yourself a shot and save yourself from all this hassle. Personally, I've been traveling to the US twice in this time. This law went in somewhere around 2021, and it was like 24 hours is insane, to be very honest. It puts a lot of pressure with respect to medical companies. The only major gain is basically the big pharma and labs that do these tests, and they're very expensive. They don't come in cheap, and sometimes if you have tested negative, great, well and do. If you are positive, then what do? There's a lot of logistics that you need to essentially do. You have to call your airlines, book the flight ticket to another date. You actually have to do extend, if you're in a hotel or something, extend more days. So there's a lot of hassle involved in this. So I'm very, very glad that US has finally removed this clause. Other countries are expected to follow this as well. Every time US does something, most other countries like European countries do the same. Germany, however, is a step ahead. I think June 1st onwards they removed all clauses and stuff like that. Switzerland way ahead in May as well. So obviously this isn't the rule all over Europe, but it does exist in some countries like Germany and Switzerland. Other countries that you are on transit don't really have those rules. UAE had removed this a long time ago. So did Qatar. So if you're traveling via Qatar Airways or Emirates, you don't really need to have those COVID tests taken in. So I think it's a great news for all of us who are traveling internationally, and a huge surprise for summer travelers. So let's assume what actually brings this huge step or huge difference right now. It's basically economics. There's like a lot of cases are rising in the US, and it's spiking definitely a lot more compared to last year, because of the virus rate and all that stuff. But it's not very, very serious, essentially because the vaccination rate is really high here. The other thing is that this is the peak summer, and people really want to visit and all that stuff, and they don't want to deal with all these logistic changes, and many people aren't traveling because of this rule. Because if you compare last year we were still in the ban period where most people from Europe weren't allowed to come into US, and basically pretty much affected about 33 countries, and the ban essentially got lifted sometime in November. And this year again, with this whole COVID test, and again, like I said, tests don't come in cheap, and if you have to get tested in the airport or somewhere else, it is really, really hard to access, and 24 hours is a very, very tough timeline if you ask me. And if you're in transit, it takes more than 24 hours to get to US, and some airlines are really greedy and they you have to take another test if you're at the airport. So there's a lot of rules and regulations here, and I'm finally glad that they've come to their senses and removed. So as of today, all you need to know is that you no longer need any sort of COVID test at all. There's other things as well, like India in February they removed the COVID test. If you're traveling from approved list of countries like the US, you just need to do Air Suvidha and you're good. So it's a great time to be traveling, honestly, and I think that was the major mindset behind this move, to essentially ensure that people can travel in freely. So by all means, travel, and definitely follow this channel, definitely subscribe to this channel. I bring a lot of travel updates, timely updates, so anytime there's any sort of news, I post it here. I also vlog a lot, so definitely check out my latest vlog, as well as some more travel updates, if some things are going to change. Overall, I think this brings the last step of any sort of like the COVID travel overseas thing. I know back in 2020 it was insane. 2020 we didn't have any sort of rules as such. 2021 was where you had to do a COVID test, you had to be vaccinated. 2022 as well. So this brings a lot of changes, and I'm very, very happy about it. So yeah, if you have any sort of questions, anything, do post them down in the comments below, and I'll definitely be answering all of them. And that is all, y'all. Hopefully I'll see you later in another update or in another vlog. So see you later. Bye.